Wow, cool.
So
Well,
that
hello everyone. We are live for another week, and it's the boys that are back in town this week. Don't know where Kristin is. We do know that our newest victim, our newest member of the crew, Jen, is away. Um, we are looking forward to a good discussion. We will put the live link in if you want to join us. But meantime, Bill, what have you been up to this week?
I'm thinking of doing a little bit more tourism. I took an adventure, a trip on Sunday to California Mission, uh, the Mission San Luis Rey, uh, on Sunday, and it was interesting. It's the first time I've been to a historic site that they've said that part of the historic building was modified for a Walt Disney movie. They had a skull and crossbones above an arch leading to a cemetery in the old mission that was rebuilt in the 1950s. And when they were rebuilding it, they were filming a TV series for Zorro by Disney at the mission, and Walt Disney asked them if they could put a skull and crossbones above the doorway. So they did. So that's the first time I've ever been to a historic site that's been modified on purpose to fit a movie. Thought that was kind of fun.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's one of those things, isn't it? I mean, let's face it, if you go through the history of any city, any country, there are probably buildings that were modified for the entertainment of their time, tourism, pilgrimages. When a town builds a hotel, it's there to bring people to the area. So, in a way, pretty much everywhere is modified for entertainment of some form, isn't it?
I guess so. I wanted to learn more of the history of California. I figured looking one of the missions would do that, and it was pretty spectacular. It really was. There was a pepper tree uh, somebody had planted in 1832 in a courtyard there. It was huge.
Yeah.
It's the oldest pepper tree in California. They're not called California pepper trees. When it was planted, they were known as Peruvian pepper trees. So they've become native.
Cool.
Mhm.
It's thing. I mean, we British tease you a bit because we sometimes say we've got shoes older than your country. There are times when we read things of people raving about some historic landmark, and it's 100 years old. Most of us are living in houses older than that. Most of us, it's a different perspective, and yet the mission there is wonderful because actually, of course, Disney and the film industry are part of the history of California, and it's wonderful that it's been incorporated even where you don't expect it to. I love looking at the various influences on things and how they evolve. One of the things I love about British history is looking at how cities evolved around certain industries. I mean, obviously in America, Detroit is, the epitome of it. Detroit built on the motor industry, almost everyone working on that. Here in the UK, we have an old saying: selling coals to Newcastle. Newcastle had so many coal miners that if if you're selling people something they really don't need, they're not going to buy off you. It's called selling coals to Newcastle. Sheffield in the north was built so strongly on the steel industry. Sheffield steel is still famous in the world today. Um, and I love sometimes looking at those, but it's also sad in the ways that parts of Detroit are decayed ghost town versions of themselves. There's a real sense of past its prime and left to rot in some of these towns, and I always think that's a shame.
I read an article last week that talked about uh, the automotive industry in the U.S. and how Detroit uh, pioneered some of the technology that's behind things like automated vehicles.
Yeah.
And they were possibly a good model for businesses to look at with some of the stuff they brought into mainstream civilizations we know it today.
Yeah, I think it was General Motors in particular, wasn't it, that article was kind of looking at?
Yes, it was primarily General Motors, but
Yeah, I did think whoever's PR at General Motors probably got promotion out of that, but it was a really good piece.
yeah.
Hey, Aidan, nice to meet you at last.
Hi, Ammon, how are
Early
you?
morning for you.
Early morning indeed. It's 5 a.m. here, trying to wake up.
Yeah, I'm just trying to stay awake. So, Terry, what have you been up to this week? How's your week been?
Oh, pretty good. Working on some sites, adding some more, learning some more about the structured data, adding schema to websites, working with provider and services, which it was interesting. It's like a new discovery every time you go there, so keeping me interested. And I think it's a skill that will be in demand more in the future.
One of the things I love about Schema, I might have said this before, I like the fact it's an extensible markup language. I like to see what people are adding to it. I do think it's a shame that more of the web's languages have kind of been dominated by the big companies telling us what we should do, and less about the users actually creating stuff and taking control of this, because that's what I love. I love the freeform aspect of the internet, the things that grow organically from the users. And let's face it, so often they've surprised us all with what they do create.
Right. In some ways, it's left to your imagination. There's a formula. If you can meet the formula, then you can do it.
Yeah. And there's still a joy in the way that the internet is built on hacking, and I use the word hacking in its proper sense, where you looked at HTML and there were limitations on what it could do, particularly on layout and things like that. So people found their own little tricks, their own hacks to make it work the way they wanted. Table layouts for whole pages where it wasn't really tabular data, but they used the table structure to be able to position things, is exactly that kind of thing. And I do, it's one of the things I love about the internet. I like seeing human innovation at work.
Creativity. You could. There was a lot more ways to be creative back then because things only went so far. The rest of it was up to you to figure out and implement. I think that's as it got less and less about that. That's when you branched out more to marketing and got away from that. Now I'm going back to it. So it's, keeps me busy.
And SEO is the example of that, isn't it? I mean, there is a real hacker mentality to web promotion generally, but specifically to SEO. And, I do like that.
Yeah. If people really looked at a custom cart rather than buying one of these out of the box, in the end, you pay almost as much. And the advantage to having a custom cart is manyfold, because even what's supposed to be a theme, they're hacking right into the code. So when these update, their templates all break, which makes, adding those themes risky business.
Yep. And even more than carts, I mean, analytics. really cannot stress enough to people how much they should at least once, at least on their own sites, make their own analytics. It will teach you so much. Do not use the Google default. So many people use it without having even tried many alternatives, and certainly never having cooked their own. And cook your own data is fantastic. Nothing beats it.
Well, I've always complained about GA mainly because you can't really follow someone through a site exactly. Whereas if you cook your own, you know exactly where they came in, what they did, and the order they did it. You can't really get that from Google because a lot of them start with, you know, like some isn't actually a page, it's some label that they stick on stuff so they can sample it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of advantages to cooking your own.
It's also one of the things, if you've coded your own analytics, if you've put together your own analytics from scratch, you're so aware of the system and its limitations in a way that I think a lot of people just installing Google, you know, they let Google define the expectations instead of thinking, what do I want to know? How do I track it? How do I take, you know, the web itself, how browsers interact with my server and how the server interacts with my site? I just think you get your hands on the data so much better, and so you understand the data and its limitations, and therefore how to hack those limitations much better when you've cooked your own data. Hey Laura, hey Arno.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm muted.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure. Where are we at? Kristin, come on, tell us about your week. What's your week been? You might want to unmute first. We're not hearing you. No sound. Okay, Kristin's lost her voice. It's just as well. She's swearing like mad now. She is. You just can't hear it. You think she's so innocent, but she swears like a trooper. Laura, hey, how are you? And what's your week been like? No? Okay, Arno.
Oh, well, how my week has been? Well, I was in Valencia.
Yes, how was that?
Really enjoyed myself. It was really good. Nice hanging out with people we were with in Brighton SEO, Ammon, and interesting discussions. Well, I got some new testing ideas I want to jump into, so yeah, it was good. It was really good. So came back on Saturday and now back to work again.
Yeah.
Would recommend to visit. Valencia is an awesome city. I don't think the content was that good, but the chats outside of the conference were really good, which is why I joined.
It's the thing I always say about the conferences.
Definitely.
It's the bit I like, and it's why Bogus Hangout exists. It's kind of the conversations from the conferences without having to take a week off and go to the conference and all the expenses. Admittedly, less alcohol, but you bring your own.
Yeah, definitely. And but I must say, Valencia is a great place to have dinner. The tapas and the paella was really good.
Yeah.
Missing out on that on the Hangout.
Jealous.
For a few days, my Twitter feed was like this non-stop torment of pictures of sunshine, drinks by the pools, tapas. Yeah.
Torturous.
I might have been part of that, definitely.
Yes. Laura, how's your week been?
It's been all right. I'm looking for a full-time position somewhere. What I'm finding is that the bigger the brand or the company, the shittier the work. Interesting. I think it's because they adopted the Henry Ford model. I was talking to Doc about this. The Henry Ford model of manufacturing, whereas, you know, it's shit writing and brutal editing. And at a
I think you'd
ridiculous
love working for Henry Ford, actually, because, I mean, that guy was a marketer. There were a lot of flaws that that man had, but when it came to marketing, that
he was
guy
brilliant.
really
He
was a
definitely
genius.
brilliant. Yeah, I'm a Detroit girl, so yeah. Yeah.
Perfect. How are you finding?
What now?
How are you finding Detroit these days? Because it's kind of one of those odd
Oh,
things that the media can't make up its mind about. Sometimes they're always on about, you know, the decline of Detroit and how terrible it is, and at the same time there's stories of, you know, it being a bit of a phoenix and re-rising again. So
yeah, it's been the Phoenix rising and then just crashing to the ground over and over. It started with the Renaissance Center, and but when I was in school, I was studying urban design, and the prof said, you know, the Renaissance Center says stay safe from Detroit. It's like a fortress, and it's true. But the last time I was in Detroit, it's just a shithole. I mean, you can be on one street and it's fine. You take the wrong turn and it's crack houses and just scary. You know, crack destroyed Detroit, and also when they pulled out the manufacturing out from the feet of all those workers in Detroit. It was devastating. Hamtramck closed down, and all the Polish immigrants were, you know, second generation anyway, were just screwed. And yeah, it's sad.
it always seems to me that alcoholism and drug-related issues so often occur in a place that used to be wealthy and is now in decline. As you suddenly get mass unemployment, it always seems to be that those workers, feeling depressed, start spending their money on things that make them short-term happy and forget their problems.
Yeah, and that lottery tickets, that's the most aggressive tax ever. Yeah, it's just sad. You know?
I do sometimes think that it's something our politicians need to take into account more when looking at unemployment, is the long-term cost of unemployment, which isn't just about, oh, we're not getting taxes from these people anymore. It's that there's a whole raft of social and medical stuff that comes along pretty soon after.
Exactly. The horizontal and vertical reverberations, you know, they're devastating. Yeah, like you said, the whole cost, emergency room visits, social workers, yeah, all of it, crime. It's just, it goes through the roof, and they can't support it. It's kind of a self-feeding cycle where they can't have the taxes to support the services that, you know, are undermined from the problem in the first place. And they get so myopic, you know, they put a Band-Aid here and they put a Band-Aid there, but they're not seeing the whole picture at all.
Yeah. So, Aidan, now you're back. How's your week been? What's your week like?
It's actually been fairly busy. I tend to work at the S end of SME, and it's actually been very active here in Sydney, and in fact more widely. But also getting a fair amount of inquiry from not so little marketing agencies. Work with in some cases some sizable brands, even international brands. Looking for SEO/AdWords type backup. They just don't they just don't afford it in house. Many of them and actually outsource that stuff. And I don't know, but the gods have been smiling on me for some reason. I've been getting quite a lot of that stuff to the point where I'm now very choosy about which conversations I take forward.
I noticed that you'd done a few posts on sort of SEO myths, which of course immediately resonated because Bill and I used to do some of those at the forums way back, didn't we, Bill? We used to enjoy putting out some myths that some of those really did cause arguments. Some of them are still going on today. Funny enough, duplicate content is still one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to the discussion today on that. I'm still getting people telling me that the user signals that Andre recently cleared up for everybody. I'm still getting people telling me that user stuff and social media likes and shares are still somehow affecting rankings. I haven't maintained my blog. I should probably do a whole new series of those myths articles, actually.
Yeah, but anybody who believed likes and shares meant anything was a fool, because you're not even indexable. That should have been the first clue.
Absolutely. Totally.
If you need Google to tell you that, you need to go back to the drawing board.
It's amazing.
Agreed.
It's amazing how many SEOs have never looked at the robots text of Facebook or Twitter or any of these others, because at times these articles have been going out, and when you look, the entire site has been blocked to search engines at times. Facebook did completely block spiders from Facebook for quite some time.
Yep.
And as for,
Google had to actually buy the tweets from Twitter. Had to pay for the feed.
Yeah, I'm going to quickly pull this up because Paula expects us to be talking sense at some point. I don't know why, Paula, you've met us before. But yeah, I think there have been some interesting things from Google I/O recently. Jen is at Google I/O, if I remember rightly today, so we will probably be following up on this anyway. But yeah, Google has brought out a lot of things this week, and I guess we do need to talk about them. Some of them were expected. The big ones that I expected certainly were the chat applications and Duo, the video application, because the money in investment in search recently, all of the big players in search have been saying that search assistants, that chat bots, are where search is going. And whether or not you agree with them, if that's what the money people are saying, you don't want them selling your shares short because they don't have faith in your future. If you want to keep the value of your company up, you still have to play to keep the investors happy and confident. So I was expecting those, Allo and Duo, and I was expecting Search Assistant, and not disappointed at all. And I do think that's the most important thing to have come out almost of this week. Anyone else? What have you noticed that Google came out with and thought, oh yeah? Oh no, you look thoughtful. Well,
yeah. Well, basically, I've been playing with the bots quite a bit on Telegram and Slack as well, and I think I'm really wondering how they will start leveraging all the data that they're gathering through any logged-in user, through a lot of Android signals that are going on. So I'm thinking a really low-key rollout, slowly getting people hooked on what the possibility can be, like maybe make a Google Now kind of application. But I also read a really interesting article on what Microsoft is doing with Yaha, or if I remember correctly, and that is so I'm still a bit thinking about how they can roll this out, because this is where it all comes together with the whole markup and all the knowledge graph questions. I think they will slowly get into the fact that they want us to ask Google questions and they will just give one answer. There won't be a lot of answers going back and forth, and they'll slowly push it first for the informational queries and then slowly into the more commercial ones. That's what I'm thinking. Well, I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I don't know that I'd say this was a Google push as much as a market demand. The idea is simple, that the PC is perhaps on its way out. Like most things, anything in technology, the technology gets smaller and smaller and starts to disappear until it no longer becomes a destination, but it becomes part of everything else. And you can apply that to almost any technology anywhere in the world. The days of a big cumbersome desktop computer for most people are things that they think are passing. That it'll still be for gamers, and that people will still have them for some forms of work. If you need intensive applications, you're doing video processing or something like that. But that the mobile devices are getting smarter, that graphics cards are getting small enough they can be inserted into mobile phones, that a mobile phone can stream to a large screen if it needs to. We've got more and more smart TVs about. The idea is that there is no urgent need for a desktop computer anymore. Once there's no need for that device, you're not keyboard dependent, and so more people are going to want to be able to access things through voice, which is why search assistants and bots that can understand what we ask for and do it for us.
If you look at the conversion data, it's not happening on mobile, not from what I've seen. Huge differences in almost every site that I look at that are selling actual things. People buy on desktop and browse on phones and mobile devices. That's been my experience from a limited amount, but I wish a lot more people would look at that more closely and start trying to figure out where the conversions happen, because I don't see it happening on mobile.
Is that because of form factors, or is that because it's still difficult to purchase on mobile devices? And if it were easier to purchase on a mobile device, it would happen more often.
No, I agree with you, Bill.
It has to do with form elements and the way JavaScript works on it, etc. Those are definitely elements.
I tend to agree with you on most e-commerce sites, but we've just done a release with one of my clients, and it's a marketplace for parents and babysitters, and there was a huge uptake in conversion. It's still not up to par with the desktop, but it's like we moved from something like 30% off of desktop to almost 85%. So we're almost at the same conversion level. So I think it's about the market, but it's also that's just something I've been seeing.
Terry, you're missing how mobile converts. Mobile converts by them getting your number and ringing you. This is the whole point. It's a phone. It's a phone. Guess what their main way of completing that order will be? To type forever with their thumb and fill in a form, or to ask you to send one. They'll ask you to send one. And if you actually count the phone calls, you'll find mobile is converting very, very well indeed.
I guess, like I said, that's what I'm seeing where I look. I agree with anything that's digital, and that's what he was talking about. I can see that being almost at some point all off of mobile. That makes sense. But touchy-feely stuff, same reason that people go to a store rather than buy it online. I see the same thing.
Bill looks thoughtful, like he's got something to add to this, but just before I let him get a word in, because I like to, stop him. It's one of those things where sometimes you're setting this up yourself. If you've got a site that requires filling in a form or filling in a shopping cart or things like that, of course you won't see a huge amount of conversions that way. If you start tracking the phone calls, and most importantly, if only there was an assistant which they could ask and it would fill in the form for them, you'll see a lot of more, of these transactions happening, because the days when most people had a desktop computer, never mind whether they want to switch to it, whether they've even got the option, have passed. We've already got more people with mobiles than there are people with desktop computers. The market is much bigger.
I think we do have to look at better ways to track phone calls than we have currently and in the past. It's too important to not figure it out. Don't know what to say beyond that.
Still no sound from you, Kristin?
No.
You can't say that! Be careful, we've got lip readers.
I think also the audiences are shifting and changing. We have the tremendous growth in mobile devices and people with the primary means of accessing the web being mobile devices. We have businesses that are allowing bring your own device options for people so that people start using their own smartphones and so on to work with and work from their home offices more frequently where they might have a tablet or they might use a mobile device to connect to the web to do some work. So we're going through a transformation of the audience of the web. We see Google's responding to that by building more things from a mobile perspective. I see more patents that are mobile first. When they show screenshots of some new invention, they screenshots on mobile devices instead of desktop computers. That's not by chance.
It's a shift, and the thing is, you don't have to wait until the shift is complete or until you're on the losing side of a shift to spot the shift. The whole point is to see this is growing. Is there any reason to expect this to stop growing before it swings that far? And if not, reposition for it now. And it is what everyone is doing. We really do believe that voice search, that being able to talk to your machine, and therefore that the machinery itself can disappear, that it can become wearables, literally into your clothing, as we're starting to see with some smart jackets and things. There's no reason that can't happen. It does seem to be the direction that it's going, a really connected world, and that we will be able to interact with it the same way we interact with each other. Through voice, through gestures, and not through a keyboard. Can you imagine if we had to type to each other?
What impact is going to have upon how we interact with e-commerce websites? When we wear a pair of goggles instead of looking at a desktop monitor, it's going to be different.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
Well, I think we're going to go to the dumb screen again.
I don't think so. I think the dumb screen has seen its day. It's long gone. I worked in an office with filled with dumb monitors, and those devices were so hard to use to actually create something new, like documents or so on. It was not really something that the people who were mini microcomputer network administrators wanted to hear, but people who actually worked and created documents and ran tasks that made having a dumb device almost useless were happy.
No, but what I'm actually saying is, I think it's the phone that at the moment will start become like the main source, and the rest will just seamlessly take over. That's basically what I'm saying.
Do you think there is a level of comparative stuff? I mean, let's face it, the average home PC, tablet device is a dumb device when you compare it to the processing power that Google's got.
Yes.
So actually, it's not that these will become dumb machines. They'll become smarter than they are today, but they'll still be comparatively dumb, I believe. I think they'll get smarter, but I think the idea is that the infrastructure will eventually be everywhere. That the idea
Yeah,
is
exactly.
a network, a genuine cloud of artificial intelligence, of machine power, of data that's accessible wherever you go. But you're still going to need a device that's smart enough to filter it.
I wanted to make one other point on conversions on mobile devices. I've been playing around with one-click checkout by PayPal, for instance. That's really huge. You just need one button. They just need to pin in their password, and you're done. If we're going to move that way, if big parties like Google, Facebook are going to support those one-click buys, it might be really, really big, really fast.
Google announced last year that through the Wall Street Journal, that they were going to have buy buttons in search results, and Wall Street Journal said it'll happen any day now. Last June, it's still not there, so it could happen. Yeah, one-click buy buttons from search results. Never have to go to the e-commerce site. Not sure what that's going to do to their analytics, but
I wasn't. Bill, I wasn't saying within the search results. I was saying they're going to power it within their login details and everything they have.
Right, I was saying within search results, because that's what Google was supposed to come out with in June. That's what they announced. Wall Street Journal is pretty big circulation paper.
I know, but yeah, I think there's too much at stake to release something like that.
Too much at stake? What do you mean?
Well, there is a lot of other advertisers there, and if they're going to do the one-click buy button within the results, they will probably not give it to organic things, and it will really stir up the market. And maybe even like the big advertisers like Travels and everything will get scared quite a bit as well. So I think there's just too much money at stake to simply implement the buy button in that. And the other thing is, I think people want to buy not a search engine, but actually from an e-commerce site, so that they can know that they offer the service. I mean, Google is not well known for the customer service.
Right, and they also aren't known for buying and selling directly from them, but they're working really hard on drone delivery of goods. What are those goods? Yeah,
well, I think something might happen where they dig in more and get self-driving trucks, and then do the whole shebang with warehousing, and then it might get really interesting.
They don't have products to sell right now. So what are those products?
Well, they'll get it straight from the producers. So basically, the way I see where Google is heading is they want to become the super affiliate, the one-stop shop. Basically, they're really jealous on how Amazon is monetizing.
How Amazon's become a marketplace and eBay have become marketplaces where they have lots of internal sellers. Yeah. It makes sense for Google to try to follow that model.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think will happen in the end.
I must admit, of all the Google products that people criticize or say Google doesn't seem to make much of, I have always thought the Play Store is #1 on that list. I have been continually amazed at how little Google have really done with the Play Store. compared to what it could be doing and what I would expect Google to be doing, because they've always, in everything else, been brilliantly innovative and able to think of things that nobody else has done. And it seems that not only have they not done what others haven't done, they haven't even got half of the things that the others have. And it's unusual to see Google that far on the back foot. And it's not that
a version of iTunes.
It could be. It could be Google's version of Steam. It could be almost anything, and yet Google don't seem to have actually turned it into anything. It's literally just a download location for some apps at the moment, and it's very limited. There doesn't seem to be enough push there. There has been talk in the past of, getting some good games in there. It does need something to join it up. Steam not only has its great games and its superb sales. I mean, the sales on Steam are legend for gamers. When Steam has a sale, half of the gamers dump their entire savings into, what are great bargains at the time, games that they'd wanted, and now that they're a third of the price, they're not going to resist. So sales that wouldn't have happened otherwise, they're not getting full price for these games. But the thing is, in the choice between getting full price and getting nothing, they were able to get a third from people who otherwise wouldn't have bought the game at all. That's still smart business sense. And I don't know, Google's talked about getting some good games in there, and there've been some that they could have purchased, and yet it just doesn't seem to have happened. I get the feeling that they haven't really decided what to do with it, and that every time they get started to think of a direction, maybe there's still this conflict and this argument happening over what they want to do with it. Maybe they just haven't yet found a direction they want.
But Ammon, might it need...
Android app store is complete and utter shite. I mean, we have an app and I can't find it on there.
Yeah.
And yet the one on iTunes is easily found.
Well, but Ammon, think this.
Can't find it.
Ammon, might it be the case that they've been so preoccupied trying to push Android as fast as possible in all developing parts of the world, so really pushing it, they don't really care that that it's not like working as promised. We just need coverage. We just need to be there as fast as possible. It doesn't need to make us money. It's just we need to move fast. So all the development resources and stuff go into Android.
I've worked in places where my managers said, when somebody comes up to the front counter and tells you, I want to give you money, don't turn them away.
Never.
It just does seem to me that there isn't a strategy with Google Play. Look at YouTube Red. The idea of subscription-based YouTube that doesn't show you ads. Why didn't they push that through Play? Why did they create a new domain for that instead of making that one of the advantages of Play and bringing people in where they can then sell them other things? That's what a marketer would have done. It just really does seem that Play hasn't got a strategy at the moment.
Look at what Apple has done and look what Google has done, night and day. One's actually made it a profit center, and it will keep that company going even if it stopped making devices. They could still remain doing that and make a fair chunk of change. Not like they do now, but at least it wouldn't be before, where they were just almost out of business if people didn't buy their stuff. I don't understand it, especially when the biggest problem on the App Store is the search. And it's a search company. For that reason, it should be much better. Because what does that say about the product?
But if you think about how many Android there are sold that haven't got the App Store.
It's a device that you can't put anything on it because you can't find it.
And Google,
no, but actually they haven't got the Play Store installed. there's so many Android versions out there that actually don't have the Play Store installed. I mean, look at the Amazon phones. Look at most Chinese phones, but they are in that area with Android. So, well, I just see them moving really hard on Android, and maybe just leaving this behind. I don't know. I agree that it would be an easy profit maker, but I don't know.
I think that's part of the problem, and I'm going to highlight this comment from William Rock. He says he uses the Nexus and he really enjoys the upgrades that he can get on the Play Store. And what you were saying, it shouldn't be about Android. Look, iTunes is not just for Mac users. Most PC users will also have it. And this is one of the things that, Apple has done so successfully, and Google have surprised me by not catching on to. The Google Play Store should not be about Android. It shouldn't be about Chrome. It shouldn't even be about Google. It should be about being a center that people go to find games and apps and streams and all kinds of things. It's an alternative to YouTube, and for the same sort of things, that YouTube does things that Google doesn't.
Yeah.
So should the Play Store. And it's one of those things that surprises me, because Google is usually, so good at these kinds of things, and it just, I don't know whether there is a departmental issue. Are these different departments and they just can't agree amongst themselves? Is it simply that, there are other moonshots, and the moonshots are the glamorous things, and Play Store just doesn't really seem to compare to that? I don't know, but it does surprise me. It does stand out.
It's like they have a printing press that could print money, and they've decided not to plug it in.
Yeah.
For some reason. Yeah.
Yeah. Or decide who gets to, do the typesetting, or, clean it every now and again.
Yeah.
It just is it really does stand out. And I know AdWords is the big earner, but in business, you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Even when that basket is as big as AdWords, you don't put all your eggs in one basket, because one of the things we are looking at as voice search comes in, how does AdWords work with voice search? This is going to be a big question for Google. I very much doubt they've gotten the answer yet, because nobody can have. It's too new. We don't know how to monetize voice search very well yet. So having something that can, be earning money when searching is all going on, where you haven't worked out how to monetize that, would seem like a really obvious choice right now.
The model for voice search can't be having an interactive menu phone that tries to sell you some streaming event like cable TV does these days. It's really not an effective way of selling your services.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting one. I think it's probably the session we'll want to do next with the Google Q&A after this upcoming one on duplicate content. I think one on mobile search, where we can, let's talk about where the current state of things is, and what businesses should be doing now to position themselves for the next couple of years, because this is a business can't afford to change every few months, especially the SMEs that Aidan works for. An investment in a website is still quite a large investment for a lot of these. It's fraught with changes. Changing website is like changing address. It's one of the most stressful things a lot of people could do. I know SEOs who they've done hundreds of migrations, and each one is still an absolute nightmare in the end. There's just so many details to take care of. So, you can't afford to leave anything behind. You can't afford to leave loopholes, because these things will come back to bite you. I do think that looking ahead is so important, and mobile search is the one which, perhaps more than anything else, could be a really disruptive game changer. Ah, we have Monty's sound.
Yay!
Yay!
Hello, everyone. Got the video and everything. Yeah, we were discussing here on the little chat on the side about the many battles that Microsoft and Google are having, and yeah, I kind of agree with Kristin when she says that people could actually get bored very easily with all those things, because unless you are working on technology, I guess that most people will never know exactly what to choose or where to go exactly. What if I buy a Nexus and it's fantastic, and what if I buy something else and crap?
Certainly, you know, everything is still a battleground, and every time we start to see, you know, one battle won, Google dominates search. There's no two ways about it. A new battleground opens up. You know, as we've said, voice search changes everything yet again. And funny enough, Google have been one of the last to the table in the arena of these virtual assistants and these search bots, and it's going to be interesting to see if Google can leverage its unprecedented data, because they use more than anybody else. They have more data than anybody else in search. How much will that translate? And I don't think that Allo and Duo are meant to be game changers themselves. Oh, they may talk about them as such, but I really believe these are going to be training sets for the bot itself, for the search assistant. It doesn't need billions of users. It doesn't need to be a Facebook killer. It doesn't need to be a Twitter killer. It just needs enough user data that they can get that search bot right.
But I think that if it goes mobile, that search will become, like you said, more like an assistant, where there'll be a calendar and all these things built into one assistant. It'd have all that at its fingertips. And Google kind of announced a few weeks ago something similar to that.
Well, Terry, I was last year. They shown off a demo of Google Now on tap, which well in the Netherlands we haven't got it. I don't know if you guys in the US have it, but I was really impressed with that. As in, it would take context, time, location, and a shitload of data, and just combine it into a nice interface. And I said, well, if that's where we're heading, then this might be really interesting.
Right. Well, if that assistant had that, right, it would be like taking personal search on Google Now and putting it on steroids, because it'd be able to look at your calendar for hints on what you may be searching for, right? So if you're searching for something and it was to do with a trip and it saw that you were going on a trip to somewhere at a time, it would be able to include that in the search. So I think there's a lot of synergy there, that search will just become a bigger and bigger part of something bigger, especially on mobile.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and let's face it, interesting is the state of search that we've always loved, because it is a field that's always interesting. Let's face it, the web itself is always changing. There are always new technologies coming up. There are always new devices on the horizon. What are wearables going to do to the web? How are people going to access information on the go beyond the mobile? Because, you know, the smartphone it's great and the screens are pretty good, but there are still things you're not going to want to do. Having voice that can read things out to you and that you can interact with and ask to do things for you is certainly one way ahead. build. We also look at things like augmented reality, where the data can be superimposed and interact with real life. We hardly have an idea of what that can be used for at the moment, but so much. You know, the virtual assistant can then be a friend who leads us where we need to go and point things out on our way that we can see and interact with.
When you kind of think about it, some of the even desktop technology now, they'll be able to put it on really thin material, and you can fold it up and put it in your pocket. And a desktop would be ubiquitous then. You could have it wherever you want it.
Yep.
It's all about the power of the device, not whether it's called desktop or mobile. It's what's inside of that technology. Like a tablet today is so much more powerful than the first computers that we used to get on the internet.
Mm-hmm. I was a little surprised that at Google I/O there's nothing from the Google Ventures-backed Magic Leap augmented reality company that has created some remarkable stuff that might be broadcast right into a actual store, physical storefront, with presentations that involve things happening within that store that are right out of movies. Totally incredible reality that is something like Las Vegas street shows, like at Treasure Island, just taking place right in front of you.
And again, these are things that are really going to change the way we live and the way we interact and the way we think about things. I think education will be one of the first places we will really see this, that augmented reality offers so many advantages in education, where, you know, we can have a teacher who is pointing things out as we go about. Imagine you go for a walk in the woods, but a top tracker is there as a you know, a persona that's showing you things and teaching you things and being able to be there as a piece of software.
Right. I mentioned going to the mission this past weekend to see how California started out, and the experience reminded me of going to Manassas Battlefield, because the park ranger who gave us a tour there was such a good storyteller in how he presented the battles that took place. And to have something where you can actually see those battles taking place on a field in front of you with that type of visual impact that augmented reality might bring would be really remarkable.
Mm. I think even things like, you know, a tour of a city with some of that city's most famous, you know, celebrities and historical figures and things, you know, are there to interact with you and lead you through it. You know, it's wonderful stuff, and it's not a huge leap. I'm going to do a quick roundup for the week ahead because we are at the hour. So let me simply go across my stream in the order that they're just listed here. So Terry, what have you got coming up this week?
Oh, this week I'm not too sure about. Just the usual. You know, I don't deviate much unless Dave schedules something, and then I got that. But same pile every day. Yeah.
Monty, how's your week ahead looking?
Hello, I think it is looking pretty awesome actually, because I'm heading off to Spain again.
Wow. I see.
Yeah, this time
thing?
This is a family thing again. Yeah, but I still have a way. I've got a website that I'm trying to do. This is a side project, personal thing as well, but I'm really trying to advance it. The usual reading, really nothing interesting, just a little bit of sun. And also
Laura,
a couple of articles. Yep.
Laura, what's your week ahead looking like? No? Kristin? Yeah, we're going to make you mime it. Come on. Explain your week ahead in mime. Yeah, I know what you shouted
really
there. Phil, what you got coming up this week?
I'm busy working on an audit for a customer, and I'm thinking about making additions to how I normally do an audit. Add some more stuff that focuses upon some mobile applications. I've added a bunch of things that deal with structured data, which I think they'll enjoy learning about. And they need to make some mobile updates, definitely. It'd be a shame not to add them.
Oh, Horne?
Doing a PPC audit for tomorrow, and then I'm off to another conference. I'm going to go to the next web conference here in Amsterdam. So I got invited, which was good. So I'm going to hear a shitload of people talk. So it should be good.
Cool. Excellent. Ah, it's all right for some, isn't it? One conference to another. Aidan, how's your week ahead looking?
Yeah, fairly busy actually. I want to think first things first will be to start looking at how to better use Google Hangouts, because it's not been cooperating for me this morning. After that, it's back into the proposals, catch up on AdWords, etc.
Yeah, we see, you gave yourself the coffee. You didn't give one to your computer. It's 5 a.m. You know, it hasn't woken up yet.
Maybe that's a problem. More coffee next week. Yeah.
Well, that's all we've got time for this week. As usual, we'll probably carry on talking in the green room, but thanks for joining us. See you next time.
Thank you.